We disagree on a fair number of things. That is pretty obvious to folks who track the proceedings of this committee. But despite all of that, this is not one of the things we disagree on, funding our parks. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to work with you. Your staff has done a great job here. And it's a welcome beacon of progress in getting something done, even in a difficult political climate. Although we still got to get it over the finish line. So this moment reflects the overwhelming sentiment of the American people who believe our national parks and our public lands are treasures that have to be protected. Today we will vote on a bipartisan bill, as you mentioned, with all of these bipartisan co-sponsors to reauthorize the Legacy Restoration Fund, one of our nation's most successful investments in the national park system. Originally passed in 2020, the Legacy Restoration Fund has invested nearly $6 billion in 400 projects across all 50 states and 5 U.S. territories. When Congress took that historic step of passing the first Great American Outdoors Act 5 years ago, it was a bipartisan promise to restore our national parks by addressing the deferred maintenance backlog on our public lands. The meaning of that promise looks very different at every park. In some cases, it might be new visitor centers, elsewhere, wastewater treatment facilities, trails, campgrounds, roads, transmission lines, you name it. If the national park system, as you mentioned, is America's best idea, funding this deferred maintenance backlog, which is often not the most glamorous part of the park system in our public lands, but certainly the important connective tissue that keeps everything running. Doing all of that is keeping faith with America's best idea. What all these projects have in common is that they improve visitor experiences. They make our parks safer. They help protect our treasured public lands for the next generation. Today's markup is an important milestone for reauthorizing this fund. The legislation is a work in progress, but we are close to a bipartisan bicameral agreement on a final bill. Even so, it's important to remember that the Legacy Restoration Fund has always just been one step towards Congress's work to fully invest in our national parks. It's not the only step, it is not the final step, and Congress has to follow up passage of today's bill with measures that increase annual appropriations for maintenance and construction, which over decades have taken cut after cut in appropriations bills, even as our parks continue to see record-breaking visitation. We also can't make these investments matter the way they should without remembering the people that make our parks function and carry out the work that we're talking about here. Our park rangers and other public servants. Over the past 18 months, every land management agency has experienced a devastating loss of staff at parks and public lands all over the country. We must address agency staffing if we're going to truly keep faith with America's best idea. We must also ensure that our national parks and our public lands tell the whole story of American history, including our complicated past and our shared future, and especially doing that on the eve of our nation's 250th anniversary. Fixing our parks is a debt that we owe to the next generation. Reauthorizing the Legacy Restoration Fund is a very good first step to doing that, but it certainly is not enough. So I do look forward to working across the aisle on addressing the rest of the work that remains before us. And I want to thank you again, Mr. Chairman, as well as the committee staff on both sides of the aisle for working so hard to get us to this point. I yield back.